Okay, so yeah, random time. It's midnight. It's midnight in Western Australia. It's one of those nights where I lay down. I got into bed. I thought I was tired, but then where does sleep go? Who knows? Sleep just disappears, does what it wants to do. Uh, that's all good, not a problem. Um, Different season in life, right? So yeah, just everything. This is going to seem like a really random video, but number one, I've had a great day. That's really good. Caught up with a pastor this afternoon. Caught up with another Lutheran pastor and his wife, and absolutely great kids. Um, this evening, all good, lovely. But different seasons in life, you see things very differently. And right now, in my season, I have no idea, um, no idea what. I mean, I know God's good, and I know He's got a plan. He's up to things. I know He's working all things together for good. I got that, but the details of what He's doing, it's like far out. I got no. Here you go, Pastor Mark's got absolutely no idea at all. Nothing, nada. Um, I'm uncomfortably comfortable in that space, I hope. But what it's causing me to do is these thoughts, these random thoughts and stuff is just going through my heart, my mind, and hopefully my spirit. And I'm seeing things in ways I've never seen them, and I'm not. I don't think I'm deliberately trying to see them. It's just I'm just looking at stuff differently, and when you look at stuff differently, you see different things. So I had a crazy revelation today, actually, quite again, it's probably a bit of a seed one, as in over time this is going to develop and deepen. But I do think, no, I don't. It's not that I think I know. I know that one of the spin-offs of the journey that we're on with Christine, getting up and walking off with Jesus and doing that impromptu. Uh, I'm truly going to become a campaigner for women in marriage. Anyway, all good. I'm really comfortable with the fact that I was a better person because of the wife that I had. End of story. And I think men have we have different roles, we have different responsibilities than women when it comes to an actual relationship, right? I get that. We're not the same. I get that. And there's different levels of accountability. But one, as in man or woman, one is actually not better than the other because the two become one. The two become one. So now there's the two, man, woman, whatever you want to do, become one. So now you tell me which one leads. Trick question, because there's only one. There's only one. So it's mutual. There is a different level of accountability, there's different responsibilities, there is different roles, but if the two become one, which one leads? Trick question, both of them. I had a reason. The other night I was in there's not too many places if you want to eat out at night down here. There's only a couple of places. There's a Pier Hotel and there's another one, 33 degrees or something, which seems a bit more like a party sort of disco place. But I walked in there the other night. We were just bored, and I walked into the Pier Hotel. I was going to have a burger, do something, but I walked in there and I sort of stood in the entrance and I sort of looked around, and the place was pumping. Like there was a lot of people, and it was it was good. But I looked in there and I did the whole big sigh thing, and I stared around at tables full of people, and I just sort of thought to myself, do I really want to be the only single person sitting at a table eating a burger and having a beer, And so I decided, well, I'll get a burger and I'll take it down on the beach, and then I can sit there single by myself, and that's all okay. But they didn't do the takeout thing, so I ended up having a burger. Well, I had a steak actually, and a beer in there. And I'm sitting there waiting for my order to come, and I'm doing the solo sit at a table thing. I suppose in hindsight, a mate said to me, "Oh, you sit up at the bar when you do that?" And, oh, yeah, probably fair enough. Although again, sit up at a bar. Just me personally, right? All good. But as I was doing that, I was sitting there and waiting for my steak, which was awesome, by the way. Highly recommend the Pier Hotel for its food. Awesome. Had a burger there earlier. I had steak. It's a win-win. It's a good one. But I was sitting there and I was doing couple critiques. Shouldn't judge, right? No, rubbish. We all do it all the time. Anyway, I was looking. I just in my view, my sphere of view, I sort of had 3 or 4, maybe 5 couples that I was just not staring at. Wasn't doing it all the wrong ways, but I was just doing a couple of reviews. So, for example, just off to the left of me, there was a younger couple. There didn't seem to be any rings involved, so maybe it was a girlfriend, boyfriend. You know, sort of maybe either late 20s, early 30s, something like that. You know, but they're a couple, and I was watching them. And she was doing everything. Like, she was the one that was engaging in conversation. She was the one that went up to the bar and ordered drinks. Eventually, she was the one that went up to the food counter area and ordered food. But as I said, she was the one that was engaging. She was actually there with this guy. But every time she would leave the table, he'd be perving at other women. I was just following his gaze and watching his eyes. And I'm sort of looking at it and thinking, no, he's not worth your time. You know, wander off, find someone else. None of my business. They could have been brother and sister, right? So you do it wrong. But anyway, I was doing people critiques, and therefore those types of things, and you know, coffee shops and stuff, they've sort of caused me to look at couples differently. And again, just random. This is just everything that's not everything. So much of what's happening in my life right now is incredibly random and doesn't seem to actually connect in many different ways. But it's caused me to go way back to the Bible. And look at couples and look at relationships well, ultimately it's got to be for my future. You know, it's got to be connected to the plan and the purpose of God going forward, which is all fine. Just yeah. Anyway, I was pondering. I went to, did the whole Proverbs 31 thing. And the reality is when you look at Proverbs 31, of course, it's all about the virtuous woman. And it goes on, it just raves about the virtuous woman and how amazing she is. But it also looks at the different loads and the different responsibilities that she carries. And she doesn't just carry them as a burden. She carries them because they're actually part of who she is. They come out of her heart. And they're all connected to character and integrity and industry and all that sort of stuff. It's and of course if the Proverbs 31 woman is right, then the reality is every man marries up. It doesn't matter how good the man is or how good the man thinks he is. There's no Proverbs 31 explaining the man like that. It's Proverbs 31 explaining the woman like that. So I'm really comfortable. I've said it numerous times. I think I was a reasonable husband, maybe better than reasonable, I don't know, but I do understand, I fully acknowledge that one of the reasons I was able to be a reasonable husband is because I had such an excellent wife. Proverbs 31, the man marries up. But it's interesting when you take Proverbs 31 and you look at it from the male perspective, you look at it from the husband's perspective, because even though Proverbs 31 focuses predominantly on the wife, it does, 3 or maybe 4 times, it does actually mention the husband. Now, I just saw some stuff today that I've never actually seen before at all, as in, I can't even say I've had a glimpse of it. Now I've got a greater revelation, a greater understanding of it. It's like I've never seen this before, ever. And reading glasses. One day I'm going to wake up and not need these because I hate them with a passion. And I don't, as I wait upon the Lord, I grow stronger. It doesn't say I become feeble and fall apart. So I'll use them while I need to, but every damn day I try and read without them because one day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to throw these things out because it's not the plan of God. Okay, let's go. Let's just do a little bit of a Bible study, right? So I looked at 2 verses in Proverbs. And I'm going to connect. So Proverbs 12:4. So you got Proverbs 31 starts down at verse 10, goes to the end to verse 31. That's all about the woman. And there's 1, 2, 3, I think it is 3 mentions of the husband in here, right? So I'm actually going to talk about the Proverbs 31 husband, not the Proverbs 31 woman. Although you can't talk about one without talking about others, because why? The 2 became one. So you can't talk about the woman without talking about the man. You can't talk about the man without talking about the woman, because they're one. But I want to connect that. So Proverbs 12:4. Proverbs 12:4 says this: an excellent wife is the crown of her husband. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband. The crown is something that shows status. It's symbolic. It shows authority. It's royalty. So lots of men take the submission doctrines and the Adam came first, and we take all those doctrines and we can take them a little bit too far. And so lots of men want to wear the crown and they want to be the king of their household, and that's actually all good. There's elements that are very correct in that. But what does Proverbs say? Proverbs 12:4 says, an excellent wife is the crown of her husband. So you've got these men who want to be kings, not understanding that the crown they wear is their wife. And without her, they can't be king. That's an interesting, I've never, ever seen that before. Without their wife, they can't be king because she crowns him. Isn't that interesting? I like it. I actually like that. In marriage, there's no room for the male chauvinist pig, and there's no room for the women's liver. Doesn't happen. If you've got either of those things going in the relationship or in the marriage, there's issues, because those two have not become one and cannot become one. So the man wants to be the king. He wants to wear the crown. He wants to rule and be Lord. And there's biblical precedent for that. But he doesn't understand that which enthrones him as king is his wife. So every man marries up. So even if you're the greatest husband in the world, you're not as great. You wouldn't be as great if it wasn't for the fact that the wife is your crown. I like it. But when the concept there, so it says an excellent wife. So that word excellent is not it's not descriptive in a sort of a passive way. It's not excellent. Wow, that's just awesome, excellent, great. It's something good. It's beyond good. What it actually means, it's an active, aggressive verb. It's a verb. So the word excellent actually means a force, a strength, a force, a strength of valor, an active virtue that is actually war worthy. In that this is something you can send to war. This is something, it's not something that you will fight for, although a man should fight for his wife, spiritually speaking, right? But it's actually a force of strength, valor, an active virtue that is war worthy. As in, this is something now. There's character traits. There's attitudes. There's things here that this can go to war. This is war worthy. And again, the concept of war worthy, it's actually got the both concepts of you can fight. This can go to fight for you, and this can fight with you. Not fight as in argument, but as in, again, the two becoming one. This thing is weaponized in a sense, in that together, so it can fight for you, can fight with you, as in beside you, right? And therefore, I suppose you can automatically assume that from the husband's viewpoint, this is worth fighting for. So it's war worthy in that it can go to war. It's weaponized. It's active. It's engaged, prepared, designed for battle. And so you can assume that, therefore, it means that the husband can fight for this as well, right? It's war worthy all the way around, right? Because again, remember that once we get into that marriage relationship, the two have become one. So it's not that the wife is this and the man is that. The two have become one. And it's interesting that when you, it says, when you look at Proverbs 31, verse 10, it says, who can find a virtuous wife? Who can find a virtuous wife? Now, even though the word virtuous and the word excellent are different words, they actually come from the same root word. So virtuous is excellent, and excellent is virtuous. It's the same definition. That's interesting too. So while Proverbs 31 doesn't talk about the warrior wife sort of thing, the thing that's war-worthy, active, aggressive, it does, because virtuous and excellent they have the same definition in the original text, which is interesting. So an excellent wife is the crown of her husband. So husband, you only are the king because she's your crown. But then if you read through, right, so the three times that it mentions husband in Proverbs 31 is verse 11. It talks about the heart of her husband safely trusts her, right? And then you go to verse 23, it says her husband is known in the gates when he sits amongst the elders of the land. And then verse 28, the second part, but I'll read the whole verse. Her children rise up and call her blessed, and her husband also, and he praises her. Right? Now, her husband is known in the gates. Her husband is known in the gates. Why? Because of the woman's influence upon his life. That's the basics. You read through previous verses, right? The husband is known not by his own virtue, but by the virtue of his wife, by the active aggression, involvement, engagement of his wife that basically makes him better than he is. Because he's not known in the gates as he sits amongst the other elders by his own virtue and by his own whatever, although he should be a good man and he should have the character and the testimony and the example and all that sort of stuff. But nonetheless, the Proverbs 31 woman makes him what he is. Well, that's harsh for male chauvinist pigs, isn't it? But that's the complementary thing. That's iron sharpening iron. That's the two becoming one, and each bit adding something to the others. But the reality is that the man receives more from the wife than she potentially receives from him. I like it because see, I honoured my wife. I didn't make jokes about her. I didn't put her down in public. She was of value. Anyway, I've just never seen this before, so it's all good. And then it says that the woman that her husband rises and he praises her. Well, I mean, husbands are such bloody buffets. Well, men in general are such buffets so often. So watching couples doing the couple critique in the Pier Hotel is like, dear God, man, wake up to yourself. So often the lady was there, whether it be the husband or the wife or the girlfriend. She was there to be with the husband, but often the husband wasn't with the wife. You could see it. It's not every husband. Some husbands are awesome, but the reality is even an awesome husband is awesome because he's got an awesome wife and because she's propping him up in so many ways. Talks about the wife being kind and the wife being caring and the wife having wisdom. Well, how often has blokes just dumb with their words, just stupid? And it's the wife's wisdom or it's the wife's kindness that calms down a situation because men are just thick. Not all of us, but we all have our moments, right? This is interesting. The last little thought here that I have, right? So you get the very last. So number one, it said that the husband is known, verse 33, the husband is known in the gates when he sits amongst the elders of the land. And the reason he's known is because of the work of his wife and the active engagement that she has in his life. That's one of the reasons. I mean, she's not the sole reason, but it's a significant part of this proverb. So verse 31, the very last one, give her, it says, let's read verse 30. Charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, right? So you shouldn't just be looking at the externals of your wife, although, hopefully you enjoy that. I did. So charm is deceitful and beauty is passing, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands. Give her of the fruit of her hands. Now, you read through that Psalm 31 woman, and the fruit of her hands, it's very industrious. She's the one that's working behind the scenes in the household for the children, for the husband. She's building things, and so she gets to actually enjoy the fruit of her hands because her husband's a better man because he's got her. Hopefully she's a better wife because she's got him. But she gets to enjoy the fruit of her hands. The man is part of the fruit of her hands. And it says, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Let her own works praise her in the gates. Where's the only other reference to gates in this? Is that the husband is known where? In the gates when he sits amongst the elders of the land. So let her own works. Who's her own work? Her husband. Who's her own work? Her husband. And it says, let her own works praise her. Praise who? Praise her in the gates. So men, sharpen up. You are where you are because you have a wife who is where she is and who does what she does. I mean, it's a mutual, right? I get it. And it's different roles, different responsibilities. And at the end of the day, man is far more accountable before God than the wife is on a number of different levels. But the reality is, blokes, if you're great, it's because your wife plays a significant role in helping you to be great. You're not doing it by yourself. None of us are actually that good. And even though we all like to joke about, well, Adam didn't sin, the woman did, and she then deceived the man, and he followed her. Well, that's fine. We chose to abdicate the role of leadership, and we followed Eve. That's but don't prop up other verses. Don't prop up other Bible verses to big note yourself without getting a rounded, full picture. And I was definitely a much better person because of the wife that I had. When I married Christine at 22, I was an absolute dickhead, like full stop. I mean, I knew nothing about being a wife. I knew nothing about being a husband. There's reasons for that, right? So I get it. But she definitely completed me. And I am the person that I am today, obviously because of grace and mercy and what Jesus Christ has done in my life. But I also understand I am what I am today because of the wife that God gave me. So that's just an interesting thing. I do think I'm going to become not a women's liver, but I'm not a women's liver. But I'm definitely, the role of ladies, the role that the lady plays in the relationship is it's greater than we men like to think. Amen. And a good wife is worth more than we know, blokes. So make sure you're appreciating the one God gave you, and make sure that you're playing your role and carrying your responsibility, because the crown that you think you wear is her. It's her. And without her, you don't have one. So without her, you're not the king. There is no castle. But again, it's complex, but it's the two that have become one. And so, when the Bible says, husbands, love your wives, husbands, love your wives, husband, love your wives, says it 3 times in Ephesians, make sure you're doing that. Because in some ways, she's doing so much more than you understand or are willing to receive. But it was just an interesting insight into the Proverbs 31 man, the Proverbs 31 husband. And I think I was a reasonable husband. And I'm looking forward to being a great one. See how that all works, eh? But anyway, some thoughts, random thoughts. Bless you all. It is now, whatever time it is, but still not tired. So sleep, where do you go? Good night.